Philistia, the land of demise. The only divine protection is the Mother Crystal. The people living in Philistia create magic with the ether supplied by the crystal, making daily life possible, at times even abundant. However, that limited divine protection also created competition among nations. Countries seek the Mother Crystals, using the power of the summoned beast and the dominant to start battle. The legacy of the crystal has shaped our history for long enough.
It has been 1500 years since the fall of our forebears. And Philistia has been slowly dying.
Welcome back, my fellow peasants and fellow passengers. Aboard the 16 hype train, strap up and strap in as we delve into what will be a multi-part foray into the most awesome and murky depths that will be the next mainline drama epic in the series. My hope is to make this a bit more of a concise, direct, easy to digest format of videos than the hour-long ramble-jabble breakdowns I have been doing, as well as something that just feels a bit more classic. The old peasant theory vids of yore. That's a journey, an experience that if you enjoyed it and you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, subscribe, hit the bell button, because otherwise somewhere out there Chocobo dies. So when it came to dissecting Final Fantasy XVI's theory and going on this summit of theory questing, I thought it best to begin, and my natural instinct was to explore the concept of the Mother. Besides the obvious premise that 16 will be centered around the ending of the Mother Crystal's reign, which, I mean, just that's a curious twist, right, for Final Fantasy, considering more often than not, what do we do? What is usually the mission? The crystals themselves are often usually something good, a source of light, magic, and even hope. Something to be protected, restored, or wrestled from the grasp of some fiendish being with a nefarious agenda. But now with 16, here's our protagonist, Clive Rossfield. He's here to control or delete the crystals entirely. Screenshots of him, Jill, Rama, or a variation of 3 show them infiltrating heavily fortified and guarded nations to reach the foot of these various crystals. That this world's nations are locked into rapidly spiraling and escalating war campaigns over.
At the very least, we must secure Drake's breath.
And the question is why? How did Philistia get here? What's the setup? What can we deduce? And that's where I'm going to make a lot of theory speculation in this vid. You know, it won't be an FFP video without it, but I've landed on 2 reasons. One, Final Fantasy XVI is going to be a humanity coming of age story, exploring some of the beauty but a lot of the dark and ugly of the human condition. You know, our burning desire for power, progress, prosperity, and even immortality. A wildfire that, without an organically evolving maturity of compassion, wisdom, trust, respect for freedom and free will on both a collective and individual level, will and always will lead to mutually assured destruction. But my first speculation is on just that the Mother Crystals in this game is what is preventing that natural evolution, which we will discuss later. My second speculation is that FF16 is a pseudo retelling of, I really do think this, guys, the Zodiac and Hydaelyn story. I think this is retelling, because anyone who has played 14, you can see it. You can see the stark resemblances 16 has to it. You know, besides just sharing references like icons, ether, the imagery like Sambrik is to Ishgard, or Warrior of Darkness to Barnabas, even traits like, you know, the Emperor to King Thordan, and so on and so forth. So I'm sure we've all wondered at some point, is 16 some kind of origin story to 14? Is it another reflection? Is this in a universe that coexists, you know, close by to 14? And this is something I went down a spiral with thinking at first, but not so much anymore. Because I believe that Yoshi P is telling 16's story, but this time, the difference, or should I also say he's telling 14 through 16, but this time Zodiac is our hero and Hydaelyn is our villain. And I say that with air quotations because what we found out is neither Zodiac nor Hydaelyn is good or bad. You know, this is the brilliance of Yoshi P. He knows how to play in the moral grey. He knows how to subvert expectations. Nothing is black or white. So digging a bit deeper, and I'm not going to spoil too much of 14, but as a very broad gist, Hydaelyn, she is the Mother Crystal, a force that nurtures and protects humanity. Hence, we kind of see her as good, as affiliated with our heroes in 14. But what we found is that what Hydaelyn is protecting, it isn't humanity in its entirety, it's actually a fragmented, flawed version of it. That while the inhabitants and the humans themselves have come to believe this is their entirety, they're actually separate from their truest and fullest nature and the extent of their truest selves. And that theme fits because a mother typically loves their child, right? Regardless of how complete and whole they are, with all their flaws. And it's the strongest symbol of unconditional love that really seems beautiful. The mother personifies unconditional love. But what happens when that love turns dark? What is its flaws? And my main running theory is that the Mother Crystal system in Valistia was put in place at the cosmogony point of the story. So this was 1500 years ago when man fought the gods and their forebearers fell. Now, forebearers, bearer. This is a term I want to highlight as it also is used to describe rare individuals in 16 who have been born with the ability to manipulate magic. Natural magic users. Now, as magic in this game only comes from the Mother Crystal, and bearer being a term like childbearing, it all points to a dependency on a mother figure. Something that we know humans didn't always have in 16. Because Valistia does have the ruins of a once technologically advanced civilization that no longer exists. They're probably going to be akin to the Allagans whenever we do explore these ruins. But what we know is that the world has backpedaled back to medieval simplicity and peasantry, and humanity has been thrust back into essentially a codependent state of infancy, if you will. Now, why did this happen? Well, I focused in on what it is that man usually challenges God over. Biblical and Hebrew and Islamic stories over the years, it's usually because man is unlike angels. Angels must obey God. In fact, they have no choice. Even if they wanted to, they couldn't. So that man is separate and he's unique from angels in the fact that he has free will. And with that free will, he typically wants to thrive, right? Learn the secrets of everything, beat death, and eventually attain immortality for himself. And I'll cover this more in part 3 of this series, but for now, imagine this, that humans attain Allagan Empire levels of progress. This is the backstory to 16. And hubris combined. And this collective recklessness with the gift of free will comes with the sentence of having it removed. This is why they fell, the forebearers fell. Now, how could the gods have removed humanity's free will? Well, I think either through splitting the once merged fire icon, which was Ifrit and Phoenix. I think the cosmology really hints at this, that there was once something different when Ifrit and Phoenix were merged, and they split them into two entities. Now, Phoenix is, of course, life and resurrection and healing and nurturing, but Ifrit, now Ifrit isn't in the pantheon, and he is both going to be our main hero and it seems main villain in 16. Maybe not our mains, but like Yoshi P said, this game is centered heavily around Ifrit. Now, is it a coincidence that Ifrit is the jinn in the Islamic story of free will? And in numerous religious stories, whether it was Lucifer, whether it was Samael, basically fallen angels, and he was always there representing mankind's lust, the desire for more, but also to show them free will, to show them something bigger. He was the vehicle for their free will. And yeah, I'll cover these fallen angels or these demons, these devils, the Adam, the creation story, the temptation story. This is all going to be playing a part in 16, but I'll cover that later. What we know is that Ifrit isn't in the pantheon, and my assumption is that the world is placed in the care of a mother deity. Like, humans weren't responsible enough with their free will, and they were placed under the Mother Crystal system. And this mother deity is the one that Sambrik worships. They worship a one true deity. And yes, guys, I've been waffling about this. I am clowning for another goddess in a Final Fantasy stories, just like I did with Etro and with Eos. I am clowning that we will see that this is a literal goddess. And this will be the big bad baddie. This is what we will end up fighting with Clive at the end of the game. So let's just go with the potential option that this goddess is literal. That perhaps the artwork of a female deity in Sambrik is literal. Perhaps she literally slew a giant drake and brought ether to this world. The various crystal points, Drake's head, spine, tail, breath. Now, these are more than just metaphors. She literally destroyed this dragon, and perhaps that the child emperor sat on the larger throne of Sambrik truly is a reincarnation of her. Either a vehicle for the mother should the day arise she ever needs to reappear or take action in the world, or maybe she's always there, pulling the strings of the Empire, launching the attack on Rosaria to once again wrestle the power over life and immortality Phoenix from humanity's hands. Like a toy, like a mother takes a toy away from a child when it grows too careless with it. This is all high fantasy, so who knows? Is it that far out there to assume that when this was Hydaelyn in 14, this was the premise of her, nurturing yet keeping humans from immortality? Could Clive, in his quest to end the Mother Crystal, have to fight a mother in a more literal sense? Regardless, I like this theme, because one speculation I've had is how tied this game seems to be to mothers and love, but that it's actually portraying what love is in the absence of free will. Because think about it, a child doesn't have free will. Their actions, their morality, their autonomy, their own reasoned choices over things like survival, prosperity, and in a way even true consequence. Children aren't subjected to these, their mothers shield them from it, and this in one POV is beautiful and of course necessary for an organism too young to handle these things responsibly for itself, but it does have a limitation, right? Because eventually the organism must be kicked from the nest so that it can grow. What if Clive is here to do the kicking? Two reasons I like this idea, guys, because I see that it would reflect in so many other relationships we're beginning to see and story elements that are beginning to get teed up, and specifically through two characters, Jill and Joshua. So let's cover Jill first, because she is of course a princess traded off as a ward to Rosaria when her home, the Northern Territories, fell. And while she is treated kindly, like it says in the law, she's treated like a little sister by the Rossfields, and she came to love them like family. Now that's all lovely, right? But it doesn't change that she was still a prisoner. Then we follow Jill on later, and while I'm speculating here, it seems that this then continues for almost 10 years. Now, between the time skips when she's kept as a slave to the Iron Kingdom, being forced to prime out and fight by being blackmailed with the love that she has developed for her fellow captives. Again, love in captivity without free will. So yeah, Jill truly embodies this theme of love in captivity. Still pure and beautiful, but inherently flawed. And this is an arc I think we're going to have to see her break away from when she finally pursues her own liberation and her own free will. And the other place, like I said, I think this theme is going to be showing up a lot with Joshua. Because from day one, this mother goddess concept I've had lodged in my brain as a headcanon. It's also been accompanied with a strong focus on Joshua's mother. I couldn't explain why, guys, and I couldn't pinpoint why. My intuition just kept telling me that there was an important link here between these two concepts. Mother Crystal on a macro world scale, and Joshua's mother and his relationship with her on the micro, and that we're going to have a thematic reflection. And I think this is fantastic when games do this, because on a macro scale, when it's like a lore, it's a cosmogony, it can kind of be a bit unrelatable, a bit disconnected, versus when it's then portrayed to us through characters that we become attached to, and we can see their struggles, form different feelings for them. It just becomes much more relatable. So yeah, at first I thought, especially with the mother goddess aspect, that Sambrik had something wrong with it. And this kind of then got confirmed to me in Dion's bio. His bio says, however, the disturbing shadow drifting in his own country was about to drop a shadow on his shining wings. This made me really think. Really gave me a little confirmation in my mind that something is off with the mother one true deity figure, and that Clive would have to fight it. And it made sense at the time, because of course it's the attack that comes from Sambrik. Dion doesn't seem to understand the motives for the fight. They're the most abundant with her and the war campaigns that happened, and it was just also like King Thordan in 14. There was something systematically wrong at the root of it, and it all pointed back to this mother goddess. And that made me start questioning everything, guys. Like, would Clive have to fight it? What is it? What would it be? I even went as far as questioning if Clive could be a demigod. I mean, damn, guys, he's a child of fate. Again, another reference, child You know, a child that goes hand in hand with mother, and being a child of fate who can house all the icons within him. Something that no one else can do. It seemed to me at least that questioning Clive's origins seemed natural, and to ask what if he is this cosmogony, goddess, deity figure's child. Now I know that seems silly, but I certainly vibed it because I didn't get the sense that this woman is both Joshua and Clive's mother. I could be wrong on this, but it's just, you know, the formality of Clive's bow, that was one part of it. The black hair of Clive that neither of the other two Rossfield brothers have. He just seemed, no, literally the black swan of the family. The fact that there's like Game of Thrones-esque vibes here, especially with Clive having Torgal, a dog, it was like very Jon Snow. Very Jon Snow, and that Clive could be a little bastard.
This is Jon Snow. It is a damn bastard.
And I could be wrong on that, but yeah, one thing is clear in 16. It has a really heavy ESRB rating for various things, like rape, sexual coercion, sexual harassment, and it has this ESRB rating for a reason, right? It's a medieval game, especially with that sexual coercion side. It really fits because alliances in medieval times, treaties, peace deals, they were commonly negotiated with marriage and mingling of royal bloodlines. So I had to ask, what if the Archduke had once had another wife, now either dead or traded out for this woman? And if the Archduke did at some point have a different partner or wife, you know, is that where Clive come from? This also then made me question how it is that some dominants in this game, they remain in the royal family. You know, Dion, Jill's and Joshua's all stay within the royal family, but Hugo and also seemingly Benedicta, Sid and even Barnabas doesn't. Now how can that be? How can certain nations keep the dominant, the power of the icon within the royal family? At first I wondered, is it based on the summon, like the icon? Say like Phoenix or Bahamut, they're kind of considered quite regal and royal, these summons. Do they kind of make the choice? But then I kind of thought, well, maybe not, because we know that there's a lot of contradiction in the confusion surrounding whether Clive or Joshua was going to become the Phoenix. And basically it made me think, is what determines whether a child will be a dominant or not, is it possibly within the mothers? Is it the mothers? So let's think about this for a sec, guys, because bearers is again a term for individuals connected to the mother crystal from birth. Is it possible the mothers who birth dominant children must also have this connection, like they are a vehicle? So do the mothers of dominant children also have to be bearers themselves to channel the mother crystal's power? And does this in any way add extra weight to their tradability? I know that sounds icky, but this is medieval, baby, and hell, could Jill be one of those? Then that's why she was traded as ward, because she has an extra level of desirability with her, that she's either a natural bearer or that she could bear. I mean, hell, could Clive and Jill romantically ship up in this game and give birth to the long lost Leviathan dominant? Oh my god, Levy baby confirmed. Okay, well no, I jumped way too off in the deep end there, so let's back up. So Joshua's mum, okay, isn't it curious the fact that they thought Clive would be the Phoenix? Like I said, but Joshua ended up as it, while Clive unknowingly ended up becoming something so much more. They thought it just skipped Clive and went to Joshua, but no, Clive ended up being the child of fate. And I also want to explore love without free will in Joshua's mum, because to me it seems clear that she is an extremely overbearing mother, overprotective to the point she seems cruel. Now I said this before, that this is the vibe I get, and I just want to call it out again because somebody argued with me that it's clearly not the case in the Japanese trailers, that she doesn't put Joshua down, that she isn't a cold, overbearing mother. But let's just watch the scenes and decide for ourselves.
You should not be out of doors. We have discussed this. Come, Joshua. Your father will be expecting us.
また部屋を抜け出していけない子ね。さあ、ジョシュ、陛下をお迎えに上がりましょう。
Naughty child. You shouldn't be outside Joshua. Tell me guys, in what universe does the Japanese make it seem clearer that she isn't a mother who is overbearing? That she isn't a mother who has a off-kilter balance of nurturing and authoritative authoritativeness. Instinct tells me she really doesn't have a good balance as a mother, and the thing with that dark side of motherhood is that when it is too tightly strung, it can make the child ill. Think about it. Think of the mother who never lets their child climb trees, make mistakes, fall down, or, I don't know, say the one who are so bacteria and germophobic, always sanitizing everything their child ever comes into contact with, that their child actually ends up with a weak immune system and becomes even sicker because of it. Now I know at this part of the video you're wondering where the hell you're going with this, Pez, but follow me. Right, what if it's the mother's overbearingness that makes Joshua sick? Now, just on her overbearing, like, is it justified or not? Well, I mean, you could argue that the circumstances with Joshua are pretty exceptional, being a Phoenix dominant. Maybe she just doesn't want him to go outside because of how highly coveted he is. That the potential for spies or assassins is really high, and it's not exactly like she would be wrong on that.
Your Highness! Run! No!
Clive!
Regardless of her heart or her motive, could we not speculate that a part of the bookish and frail condition Joshua is in is caused by his mother's protectiveness, a sickness in not just his body but also in his mind? And that's why Joshua, in his bio, it says he sees himself as inferior to his big brother Clive, and that he should never have had the Phoenix's power. And is this type of sickness not a thematic, or could it be a thematic reflection of Valisthea as a whole? A world that has had the protection and blessing of a Mother Crystal, but has now grown sick with war and, you know, a literal blight. And does that mean that this world needs a daddy to come along and offset the balance? A daddy to come along and encourage a different outcome?
The mother's flame now all but a flicker.
We cannot live without the blessing of the crystals. And the crystals work their magic through us. You have been blessed, Joshua.
Now this scene I just played with the Archduke and Joshua, to me that really encapsulates how a mother and father have different values to contribute to a child, and how important the balance of getting both can be. Because while their ideologies can seem opposed, as they do seem between the Archduke and his wife, in how they approach Joshua, the father kind of has to have his talk and empower his child, tell him that he is special and offset the mother's overprotectiveness. Now how tight, guys, would it be if Clive is basically his father? He ends up being his father, but not for Joshua or for a child of his own, but for the entire freaking world in this game. To basically kick it out of the nest and empower it. So Clive is basically his father. The Hydaelyn-esque Mother Crystal ruling Valisthea and making it sick is a metaphor for Joshua's mum in this story, and Joshua himself in this scenario being a metaphor for Valisthea, who, until the right balance is struck, its ability to harness and independently manifest its own life. Now in Joshua's case, because he's the Phoenix, the literal power of life, the secret of immortality men have long coveted, and the reason humanity's forebearers fell, until the right balance of parenting comes along, remains trapped in captivity. Damn, that would be so tight. Broader themes and lessons permeating a game's world being portrayed through this little configuration of father, mother and child. That just makes so much sense to me, guys. I don't know if you're seeing it as well. Valisthea is obviously dying and it's running out of resources, and it's trapped in a frail, slowly declining condition. It isn't, no, the ecosystem isn't balanced and life isn't able to thrive naturally.
Might suck this place dry. Meaning no trees, no birds, and no magic.
Just like it can't in Joshua. Like Clive's going to be a literal daddy to this world. These are all the ingredients for a really powerful game, if this connection is valid. Because once I made this in my mind, it got me all the more excited, all the more focused on this mother concept. But here's the twist, guys. Are you ready for it? I honestly thought this link was just a headcanon. I was just seeing this micro and macro thematic reflection in my mind, and that it would, of course, remain amorphous in just my head until 16 released. Hell, sometimes even after a game is out. Now, how many times do themes just stay lost in obscurity or interpretation. But then the community found something, guys, and it blew my nips and my tinfoil hat sky high. How wild is it that I've had this roadmap all the way back in the jungles of Kuala Lumpur, Mother Crystal, Heidelin Villain Flip Up, Joshua's mother, free will and the freedom for man to pursue his quest to beat death. All roads leading back to Sambrik, who worships a one true mother deity, but something is dark. Hold these links in your heads, guys. Hold them on screen. Hold them. Because what we missed, the big tie-in that honestly cements for me this entire theory, is sat on the throne of Sambrik. It isn't definitely not King Thordan. It isn't little girl with kicky legs. The incarnation of one true deity could end up being, or has always been, literal. A literal goddess. But then, you guys found a third seat, and
the suspense is terrible.
He's gonna go this time.
I hope it'll last.
Look who it is. None other than Joshua's freaking mother. Oh my god. Yo, guys, I am not 100% certain, and I have looked at this for hours. It's her. I mean, let's look together. Her hair parts and is styled the same way, the same direction. The face is pretty damn similar. Now, yes, the outfit is different, but remember, we have 3 time skips in this game, and we know that outfits change. You know, Clive's changes, Gilles does, Dion's potentially does if this is in fact him stood next to Barnabas, which we'll explore deeper in the next part. And also Barnabas has a slightly different garb to him. So I definitely think in this game, no time skips are going to be represented with outfit changes, but regardless of just time skips, I think it would be pretty natural for Joshua's mother to change her clothes upon being appointed as Empress of Sambrik. This is such a dark mindfuck, if true, and it raises so many questions. Now the first one, of course, is why would, definitely not King Thordan, take Rosaria's Duchess for his Empress? Now, you could say a pretty obvious one is to integrate and ingratiate the territory that Sambrik just conquered into the Empire. That was pretty common medieval times. You know, Rosaria, they can have a little bit of an easier time falling under a new banner if its Empress is the same. This was not uncommon to do in the Dark Ages. Weirder still, but less likely, I think, is that this woman, Joshua's mother, was always working against Rosaria, that she was born from Sambrik and she was always going to betray them. I don't think that's likely, but we could consider whether she has power-hungry motives that came originally from Sambrik, where she has an ideological alignment with them. I kind of thought that his mother was probably more from the Iron Kingdom, in the sense that they do perceive being a dominant as a poison. She was always telling Joshua he's sick. Actually, you know what? No, she sat on that goddamn throne, man. She has gone to the side of the very nation that killed her husband, got her son kidnapped. She's just sat there. Maybe she does have power-hungry motives. Where was she the night that Rosaria fell? Pretty far out, I know, but you know, that when they were trying to smuggle Joshua out, the attack seems to really take Rosaria by surprise. Did she leak info to Sambrik? How did she open the gates for her own motives? But maybe not even her own, maybe even out of overprotectiveness of Joshua. Because think about it, you know, she's been super worried about Joshua. He is the Phoenix in this game of war. She knows that another nation is going to come for her son, and as Sambrik are rising up as a superpower, eventually getting to a size and scale that massively outweighs Rosaria's army and military might. What if she was preempting that she was going to have to side to keep her son safe with this emerging superpower, that Sambrik would provide a safer place for her son, as opposed to the ideologically opposed Archduke who she saw maybe as reckless? Now, I may be overthinking all of that, because perhaps none of this is her free will. Maybe she's another victim of the theme of love outside of free will, of love within captivity. And this would particularly be the case with, you know, the third possibility. This is a juicy one, man. What if she is this child emperor's mother? Oh, I think it's possible, because the time skips we do know of, guys, is that Clive is going to go from being 15 at the point of Rosaria's attack to mid-20s in the mid-section, which is presumably when Joshua's mother here is taking the throne, or when she sat on it. So from 15 to mid-20s, that's anywhere from an 8 to 12 year time jump. How old does this child look? Oh boy. Oh boy. And that, guys, makes me even more suspicious of why she's there and why not King Thornton has kept her. For that very reason I said earlier, that what if the dominance and the lineage are in any way tied to the mothers who bear them? Did the fact that she had a Phoenix son play into a motive of the Emperor of Sambrik having a child with her himself? Very icky, very gross, and definitely sexual coercion like the ESRB rating. But if that is true, then this kid is Joshua and potentially Clive's half-brother, though I am doubting the latter. It also begs the question what this kid could be. What have they birthed? Again, Sambrik have 2 dragons on their banner. So, you know, I thought early on, is she a little Tiamat or a little Shinryu? No, another Drake. The thing that really does look like a Drake, because I got this really confused on the cosmogony, is how snake-like, you know, with long neck and long tail and long body that Bahamut has. I confuse it with Leviathan. And I don't know, I'm basically thinking, could this child be a Leviathan? Because after all, Sambrik do own 2/3 of the Northern Territory's oceans, which happens to be the area where there's a lot of insanity, great cyclopean beast, cannibalism, warped reality. Something crazy is happening out in the North Seas, guys. And I can only attribute that craziness to the fact that it is missing the Warden of the Oceans. Leviathan being missing from this world has caused turbulence and chaos in the seas. Or the third option, this kid, again, could be a vehicle for the mother goddess, the Hydaelyn in this story. And whether she would be Clive's kind of stepsister or half-sister, really seeing that this kid is going to be the polarity to Clive. Now imagine this, because if Clive is the child of fate, and he is essentially playing the Zodiac in the story, or should I say the Zodiblos in this tale. Yes, I'll explain this later. Zodiblos. And this little girl is his polarity. Now, what is the polarity of fate? I don't know. Could she be a child of predeterminism, tyranny, status quo, or destiny? I know, Clive the child of fate and her the one child of destiny, where basically she's able to channel, embody the goddess like Clive can the archdemon. As this gets so freaking dark, because if she is in any way Hydaelyn or connected to the power of the Mother Crystal and is the crux of Clive ending the Mother Crystal's reign, what if it places him at the doorstep of this child? I really think it could, guys. A kid who in another circumstance could have been his own stepsister, half-sister, and that Clive's path of revenge for the murder or attack of his kid brother, his homeland, the nation that destroyed his life, enslaved his companions, that cast him for over a decade into the wilderness, where Clive himself feels his humanity slipping away and is questioning, just like in the Revenge trailer, if revenge is a weapon or something that's slowly destroying him from the inside out.
Revenge is a weapon. I sometimes wonder if I am controlling it, or if it's controlling me.
What if this whole dark arc of vengeance that Clive is on, and to end the Mother Crystal chokeholding this world, what if it all leads to one penultimate decision, one so evil, so demonic that should Clive make it, he'd be lost from his own humanity completely. The murder of an innocent child. Well, that escalated quickly. Man, oh man, I know how dark or potentially cliche that could sound, but I have faith in Yoshi P's ability to weave these types of ideas into much more complex and engaging possibilities than, say, Jaime Lannister yeeting a kid off a tower. But to me, guys, this does seem a possibility. Because think about it, not just because this kid could be the embodiment of the Mother Crystal system, it makes sense, it checks out, the one true deity incarnates, but also because regardless, this kid is Sambrik's true leader, right? So whether it's now or later, when Clive is fixed on a path towards getting revenge, and it's going to be against Sambrik, then his path is ultimately fixed towards this child. A child that not only is he possibly related to himself, but is also the sister of his kid brother who he's on this revenge path for, and that he may come up against Joshua's mother, the very woman he grew up with, and I'm sure, by the nature of being his father's wife, must have in some way seen as his own mother. This could get so messy, this could get so spicy and sinister. The depth and weight and meaning of the messaging that could accompany it going down like this, and just the fact that I had this Hydaelyn Mother Crystal association with two things, Sambrik and Joshua's mother, and now they're literally here in the same place. She becomes the new leader of Sambrik. Damn. Too much of a coincidence, my friends. Too much. Something going on here, guys. Something. And I like the potential of it. And let's not forget another part of the ESRB rating, besides the sexual coercion and rape and all the other really ickiness, was that it did state the agencies took big issue with the severity and frequency in which minors were used in violent situations. That aggravated the rating heavily, so if anyone out there thinks that would be too far to have Clive potentially have to face the dilemma of murdering a child or not, I don't know. I think the ESRB and the maturity rating of this game kind of confirms that we can't rule something like that off the table. Damn, man. And that'd be so powerful for Clive, for his path of vengeance, to have to come up against the choice of making a decision that ultimately is the one that set him on the path. The attack for his kid brother would do the same. Two wrongs not making a right. And just if this theory does happen, there's a side of me that kind of wants them to do it. I don't know if I want Clive to be a hero. Again, I think Jill is going to be the real hero of this story, and Clive is going to be a far more darker and conflicted individual in this story, and that is in no way going to be like our typical Final Fantasy heroes. And for that reason, that's why I think he will become an archdemon. He will go up through the ranks of demonhood to a scale of Zodiac, Diablos and Ifrit, all merged, all biblical, Abrahamic and Islamic, fallen angels and devils and demons. But we will cover that in part 2, guys. So that is a wrap. I could honestly talk for so much longer about this concept of mothers, the archetypical role that it plays, even dive into mythologies and religions like Hinduism, I know, where it has a mother goddess like Durga or Kali, who has 10 different forms, ranging from Dakshinakal, which is the benevolent mother, who protects her devotees and children from mishaps and misfortunes, all the way to Bhima Kali, who leads her children with a strict, disciplined ferocity. There's so many variations of what a mother is, thematically and archetypically, but I think you guys are more than insightful enough to form your own deductions on the various degrees and levels of what a mother is and where it works and where it fails. I hope this vid just kind of pointed a finger on how it might be appearing in 16. And I hope you enjoyed it. Part 2 is going to be exploring some epic possibilities in the balance of order, chaos, darkness and light, how Barnabas and Dion are going to play a role in this story, in the end of the Mother Crystal saga, what they think and feel about the Mother Crystals. Link will be on the screen or in the description. If the link isn't already there, give me a few days to record it. And if it is, before you scoot Magoo, do us a favour. The best support you can do for these kind of vids and to show me that you like them and want to see more is ding-a-linging them like button fireworks. Drop in a comment on what you thought, what headcanons this may have triggered. If there's anything that you've been thinking similarly in the story of 16 or something completely different that I should include in what's probably going to be a 4-5-parter of this particular series. And then finally, I want to do a shout out and dedication of this vid to Steel Angel Vicky from the Patreon family crew on the Ifrit's Peasants tier. That felt very fitting, as well as a thank you to all the other Patreon supporters whose cards are going to be rolling at the end of the credits here. I appreciate so much all of your support and all the YouTube members. You guys in a major way help me keep making these kinds of vids and doing this channel and covering it over this next exciting period up to June when we get 16 and then 7 remake after that. Rebirth is coming, and if anyone else wants to show that support, link to Patreon down below. Peace out, tinfoil hats disengaged, and I will see you on the next video. Kupo!